Hello everyone, welcome back with Stereo here. We are continuing our adventures with Johnnykin and the Goblins. Let's see where we end up now. An tara ta on ta Allah went a loud trumpet. Then there was prompt silence, disturbed only here and there by the last frolicking of the wilder goblins or by the quieter ones settling down into places. Tan taro tara tala blew the trumpet, more impatiently this time. Then the procession came through the side door. The first part of it consisted of a great many gentlemen, mostly young. They all wore evening dress in a very evening manner, and had hair parted in the middle, and bore small, neat mustachios. They were all very much alike indeed, and very solemn, and nearly all had eyeglasses, and stared through them at everybody, as if thinking, "Well, what is it? What do you want?" As they walked round and round, Johnnykin heard the spectators say with delight, "How stupid! How very stupid! How dull! Isn't it wearisome? How tiresome! How tiresome! Parrots! Parrots! And how real!" "Those," said Marjolaine to Johnnykin, "are the dreadful stupids." "What is the use of looking at them?" he replied. "Don't you understand? When you real people amuse yourselves, you like to see queer merry folk like goblins to make you laugh. We like to see stupid figures, like common real people, to make us dull. It calms one's mind. So, after the poor young dreadful stupids had marched a great many times about the church, they were followed by a party of ladies and gentlemen of all ages. The elderly, the middle-aged dames were overdressed. The young ladies stared very much like frogs, and all looked as if they had better stayed at home. "Those," said Marjolaine, "are the people one can't remember for one's life. And they are the greatest troubles in it. People, for instance, that one goes down to dinner with for the first time, and who can't talk a word. They are followed by the men and women who always remember you when you can't recall them. It's generally years after you've seen them for a second time somewhere. And you like looking at this? Certainly, we think it's charming. It's so very dull, and bores one so. It almost makes me feel sleepy, you know," she added, "that we never sleep in Goblin Land." "Ah," said Johnnykin, "now I can understand it all. You refresh yourself with stupidity, just as we do with sleep." "Yes, then I think you would find mortal life very nice," replied Johnnykin. The girls gave a deep, sad sigh, and looked at him as if they wanted him to say more. But he was quiet, and then they sighed again. Tan-ta-ra-ta-ta went the trumpet, tan-ta-ra-ta-ta. A very queer guest, a little goblin, now mounted the pulpit. "That's Nick Lincoln," said Marjolaine. "Friends all, great and small," cried Nick, "I am glad to see you together again, as we have a great deal to eat and drink and talk and laugh by and by. We will proceed at once to business. The committees on mischief are first order. Will the chairman of the committee on orange peels please to report?" A very mischievous, lemon-faced, monkey-looking goblin here arose and then said, "The committee have to report that in England alone, during the past year, 25,098 people slipped on bits of orange peel." "Hear, hear!" cried all the party, in Charlie Cake and Ale's box. 4,130 of these people were hurt. 300 were seriously injured. The committees have found that all of these sufferers declared it was a shame and that whoever threw the peels about ought to be severely punished. They've also found that all of the people thus injured, there was not one who had not at some time in his life or her life carelessly flung orange peel on the pavements without a think. The Committee on Orange Peels are of the opinion that such is life, and that if you are virtuous you will be happy. An exchange is no bobbery or robbery. There are immense cheering at this. The reason being, as Chesme explained, that the remarks in the concluding sentence were not only entirely new to everybody present, but that they sounded so much like the talk of real people that everybody was quite charmed. The trumpets blew, tara and ta, and another sprite jumped up and announced himself as chairman of the committee on putting things on railroads. I have on record, he said, 1,100 cases of bad boys who put sticks and things on railroads or who threw stones at trains. All of these boys were constantly familiar with cruelty, harshness and strife. And, of course, were always thinking how they could do something desperate and cruel themselves. The committee is of opinion that those who show the cat the way to the dairy will bake as they brew, and by sowing the wind will reap the whirlwind. The cheers and trumpeting which followed this report having ceased, there was heard a tremendous meow, ow, ow, and a creature like a frightful cat bounded on the pulpit. I am sorry to say that Chesme, the instant she heard this, uttered a loud meow in answer, and then, very much ashamed, blushed up to her hair and hid her face in a handkerchief, while Marjolaine appeared to be almost angry and said, "My dear, you surely forget yourself." Of course, Charlie K. Canale, hearing poor Chesme's cry, set up an awful meow opposite, in which Marjorie, Daw, and all a select party joined, until the entire house was in uproar. And then, of course, they began to scream, "Silence and shame! Silence and shame!" I am so ashamed of myself, sobbed Chesme, but I've only just left off being a cat. And I like cats ever so much, said Johnnykin earnestly. And you do meow so sweetly. When Chesme heard this, she dried her tears and said, I can't help it. It runs in the family. Once in Athens, my dear mamma forgot herself in the same way. She'd been a cat, but Venus changed her to a young lady. Oh, I know that story, said Johnnykin. It's an Aesop, isn't it? It is really printed in the real book, exclaimed Chesme. Oh, what a comfort. How happy I am. Our family is known in the real world. Do you hear that, Marjolaine? Saying this, Chesme held up her hand and head with great pride, and fanned herself, and looked as if she wished that everybody in the church knew what Johnnykin had just told her. The cat, which was now in the pulpit, had very singular shape. It was pointed at both ends, and explained itself by saying, I am the chairman of the Committee on Tip Cats. We find that of late the practice of tip catting has greatly increased, especially in London. 11 people have lost eyes. 428 have been hit on the nose. 1,100 windows broken. 2 little boys have been taken up by the police and fined £0.50. £0.50 each. Meow. Come now, Johnnykin, you've had enough of the committee, I know, and I don't believe you think enough of them is as good as a feast. Therefore, let's go to supper, cried a saucy, small voice, which from Chesme's silver perfume bottle it came. Johnnykin looked and saw it sitting up on the edge of the box, looking as pert as you may please. And that's the end of that episode where they listen to the committee. So, the next time we continue, we'll meet whatever it is he has seen that is sat there, pert and pleased with itself. Some sort of fey being, I would imagine. Very interesting though, indeed. And yes, we will get to meet a fair few of the other characters that we have met in my stories. Because you see, I have told stories with all these folklore people in them. Aesop's has Marjolaine's mum. Yes, the cat that was turned into a lady, that then chased a mouse, so was turned back into a cat. I've told that story. I've told the story of Child Roland and how he went to Feyland. But as we continue, you'll recognise so many more. Thank you for listening, and join me next time as we continue our adventures with Johnnykin and the Goblins.